वासुदेवाय ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, verse number 23. You can repeat after me. Saknoti haivayah sodhum
शक्नोति हैव यशोडुं
प्राक्शरीरा विमोक्षणात्
प्राक्शरीराभिमोक्षणात्
कामक्रोधोद्भवं वेगम्
कामक्रोधोद्भवं वेगं
सायुक्तः स सुखी नरः।
स युक्तः स सुखी नरः।
शक्नोति हैवयः सोढुम्
शक्नोति हैव यशोडुं
प्राक्शरीराविमोक्षणात्
प्राक्शरीराभिमोक्षणात्
कामक्रोधोद्भवं वेगम्
कामक्रोधोद्भवं वेगं
सायुक्तः सा सुखी नरः।
स युक्तः स सुखी नरः।
शक्नोति हैव यः सोढुम्
शक्नोति हैव यशोडुं
प्राक्शरीराविमोक्षणात्
प्राक्शरीराभिमोक्षणात्
कामक्रोधोद्भवं वेगम्
कामक्रोधोद्भवं वेगं
सायुक्तः सा सुखी नरः।
स युक्तः स सुखी नरः।
Anyone would like to recite the verse?
शक्नोति हैव यशोडुं
शक्नोति हैव यः सोढुम्
प्राक्शरीरविमोक्षणात्
प्राक्शरीराविमोक्षणात्
कामक्रोधोद्भवं वेगं
कामक्रोधोद्भवं वेगम्
स युक्तः स सुखी नरः।
सायुक्तः स सुखी नरः।
शक्नोति हैव स सोढुम्
शक्नोति हैव
यशोढुम्
यशोडुं
प्राक्शरीराविमोक्षणात्
प्राक्शरीराभिमोक्षणात्
कामक्रोधो भवं वेगम्
कामक्रोधोद्भवं वेगम्
स युक्तः स सुखी नरः।
स युक्तः स सुखी नरः।
Okay, I'll go for synonyms. Saknoti
शक्नोति
is able,
is able,
iha eva in the present body,
in the present body,
yaha one who sodum
sodum
to tolerate, prak before, sharira
sharira
the body, vimokshanat giving up, kama
kama
desire,
desire,
krodha and anger,
and anger,
udbhavam,
udbhavam,
generated from
generated from
vegam,
vegam,
urges,
urges,
saha,
saha,
he,
he,
yuktaha,
yuktaha,
in trance,
in trance,
saha,
saha,
he,
he,
sukhi,
sukhi,
happy,
happy,
naraha,
naraha,
human being.
human being.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Okay.
Translation: before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. Purport: if one wants to make steady progress on the path of self-realization, he must try to control the forces of the material senses. There are the forces of talk, forces of anger, forces of mind, forces of the stomach, forces of the genitals, and the forces of the tongue. One who is able to control the forces of all these different senses and the mind is called Goswami or Swami. Such Goswamis live strictly controlled lives and forgo altogether the forces of the senses. Material desires, when unsatiated, generate anger, and thus the mind, eyes, and chest become agitated. Therefore, one must practice to control them before one gives up this material body. One who can do this is understood to be self-realized and is thus happy in the state of self-realization. It is the duty of the transcendentalist to try strenuously to control desire and anger. Translation once again: before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. Okay, so we'll start the discussion. So yesterday we have seen the verse yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate adyantavantaha kaunteya na deshu ramate buddha. So that verse says, like, these senses are all this like desires, all this whatever we achieve through the senses, those are like a temporary, and it has adi and antya, so it has beginning and end. So those are temporary. So continuing the discussion, Krishna is saying here, let's see the verse. Saknoti haiva yakshodum. Shodum means tolerate. Saknoti means be able present at this body. So being able present the soul at this body, one has to learn tolerate. What one has to tolerate? Prak sharira vimokshanat. How, like sorry. Third line, kama krododbhavam vegam. So one has to tolerate kama krododbhavam. So kama is lust, krodha is anger, udbhavam is generated. So one has to tolerate the lust and anger, the urges of lust and anger. So until how long one has to tolerate? That is prag sharira vimokshanat. Means one has to, until one has to give up the body, till that time one has to tolerate these two, lust and anger. So what will happen by doing that? Sa yuktaha sa sukhi naraha. Naraha means the human being. Sa yuktaha. So he'll be in trance and he is happy. That's what, before its translation is saying, before giving up the present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material desires, material senses, and check the forces of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. So let's see how we can tolerate, or what is the toleration means. So here this verse is explicitly saying kama krodha. So that too, it's just Prabhupada quoted the verse here, like from Nectar of Instructions, first one. Vacho vegam manasaha krodha vegam jihva vegam udaropasta vegam etan vegan yo vishaheta diraha sarvam apimam prativim cha shishyat. So one who tolerated all the urges, like vacha means like a tongue, speaking. Manasaha krodha vegam. So manasaha means the mind, the urges of the mind. So that's what here, like Prabhupada explained all these things: talk, tongue, anger, mind, stomach, forces of genitals and tongue. So one who is controlled by all these forces, then he is called Goswami. So the verse it says, one who is controlled all these things, he is eligible to make disciples all over the world. That's how the nectar of instructions is. So one who controls all these things is called Goswami. Goswami, Swami means the master, Go means senses. So he is called the master of the senses. So on that kind of master lives by strictly controlled the senses and all together like with the controlled senses. So let's see the like coming to the point of controlling and the urges of the lust and the anger. So if you remember in a third chapter, like we read the lust series, in that one, like that one verse comes like avrutam jnanametana jnanino nityavairina kamarupena kaunteya dushpurena nalena cha. So this lust is covered of the pure consciousness of the living entity, and how it is, it has two qualities. Notice that one, it burns like fire and it never gets satisfied. So that is avrutam jnanametena jnanino nityavairina kamarupena kaunteya dushpurena analena cha. Analena cha means like it burns like a fire. So it means that it's burns continuously, one after the other. The last desires comes, and at the same time, the one more thing, it never gets satisfied. So these are the two qualities mentioned there. So let's see how here Krishna is telling us tolerate. Why the tolerate word shodum is very, very important in this verse. So let's see, like we struggle to purify like our desires, right? So the more we become like connected to Krishna consciousness, the more we become win in the war of the senses and the desires, right? So let's see, the urges will become like how can we tolerate that urges? We will discuss little more depth. So the temptation means the desire, or so like the source which makes us to get that desire. So the temptation will come. So that temptation, like a tolerance, is like a wall between temptation and transgression. So transgression means when we get tempted, we act to that one. Like if I want to eat something, we act according to that one. So that act is transgression. So tolerance stands between this temptation and transgression as a wall. It means that like we are not responding to the temptation. We get temptation, but we are not responding means like tolerating. No, I don't want to do like that. So that is the wall between action to the temptation and temptation itself. So how can we make that one wall tolerate? Means like if someone come, like we can calm down, or getting out of that place where we are getting tempting, or we can understand through the scriptural knowledge, this is not good for me, like that. So that's how we tolerate it. We increase our tolerate levels, and we understand that is not good for us, and we get out of that situation. That is the one way of tolerance. Like example, in the office, like our reporting manager or our boss sometimes yells at us, like sometimes misunderstands some communication, and he may say that when you are the cause for this, like situation in the project, like that. So what we'll do, we try to explain to some extent, otherwise we'll keep quiet or something, let it go or something. So the toleration is there. Even we know, unknowingly we tolerate a lot of things in material world, but Krishna is saying here tolerate related to only to our body. It's not tolerating to others, but tolerating our body, that too, that krodha and kama. So let's see that one, how we can do. So the tolerance levels always makes us strengthen us. It's like lack of tolerance means we are weak. How we are weak, we will see. So if we take an example of like roads, on road, if you are driving and you by mistake that your car is going to the side track, like then there are the jolts on the road, like the rough surfaces, and when the car goes to the rough surfaces, it makes a noise, so we get alert. No, I'm going sides, I need to pull it back to the lane, like that, right? So that jolts are the one which alerts us, like, we want to go straight only, but we get distracted and go side, and there is an alert and which pulls back to the lane. So like that, so sometimes we want to go in Krishna consciousness, we want to go do in a straight and lane which we are following, but sometimes these temptations pulls us, like, sides. Then we should have like a jolts kind of rough, like how it alerts to the car when while driving. In the same way, we should have our weapons to bring us back to the lane, to bring us back to that one. So these temptations, so it's not like, temptations are going to stop. So we can't become desireless, but we can uh, enlighten ourselves with the knowledge of the scriptures and Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, what to desire less and what to desire more. So that is that one we can do, but we can't become desireless, because desireless is not a state of the soul. But by enlightening knowledge, we can analyze with our enlightened intelligence that two human being only has this power to take a decision, like, whether I should desire this, like, more or less, or I should desire this at all or not, like that. So if now, like, if we are practicing Krishna consciousness, we have 4 regulative principles. Then with our enlightened knowledge, by hearing Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, following Prabhupada instructions, we strictly know that one, we should not do all these 4: no meditating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling. So whenever the temptation comes from that one, forget about it. We don't even turn to that side, because we completely convinced that these 4 regulative principles are the one which makes us fall down from the spiritual platform. So that conviction, so I'm taking that an example because this is the basic thing which we follow in our sadhana practice. So that how strong we have the faith, we should not go to that side. That much strong we should have even in our other practices also. Like like when the temptation comes, like, even the temptations pulls us, like, side tracks in our journey of Krishna consciousness. Like, mind sometimes tastes when temptation comes, oh, it's okay, this is not it's okay, for this time I can do, or it's okay if I skip one program, it's okay, like that. So the mind plays tricks also. So we should have our weapons to pull us back. So that weapons, like, how we can make us is that weapons are like chanting, remembering Krishna. And when we are in a situation where temptation comes and other circumstances, environment is not conducive to us to remember Krishna, but are to take association of devotees, then we can just remember the pictures of darshan of the Krishna, or sing some bhajan inside us, or recite some verse which you know very well, which you well connected to that one within yourself. So those are the weapons against the temptations. So when we throw that weapons, these weapons means by those we beat down the temptation. So everyone should have some weapons. So everyone mood is different, like, some may sing bhajans, some sings nice kirtans, and some remembers, like, some statements of Prabhupada, or some remembers verses. Some are so attached to particular lordships, like, some one place or one particular decoration of the deities, like that. So these are the weapons against the temptations. We should have that weapons. So those are like, stock of weapons we need to store in our internal memory, or we need to meditate on that one more. Those are the kind of weapons against these temptations. So we beat down the temptation. So what will happen when we beat down the temptation? That mind will become calm and steady and composed. Okay, mind saying something, I do this one, insistingly, like, go and do this one. And we are telling no, no, no. So simply telling no against to the mind, that is not going to work. We need to give some higher taste. So that's why it's called as higher taste. So higher taste is a necessary for us. So if we say only no without any replacement to that one, then mind is not going to listen. So we need to keep giving the higher taste to the mind and to the soul also. So when we keep giving that higher taste, what will happen? The lower taste which are there in us, So those will get, the higher taste is going to suppress that lower taste. So if we don't give higher taste, keep giving higher taste, reading scriptures or hearing or sharing or learning verses or reading Prabhupada books, these are the higher taste which we are giving. It may be daily practice in one way, to develop love for Krishna, but in another way we are giving ourselves the higher taste, because that higher taste is going to because the lower taste are not left from the bus, because here it's saying Krishna tolerate the adjust till this body giving up this present body. So the goal is tolerate has to go till the body has to till the soul give up the body. It means that till the death we need to tolerate the adjust of the senses, whoever we may be. So because any time, until unless we are in this body, the temptations may make us to fall down. But to fight, it's kind of a tug of the body. If they comes and we need to give higher taste, and if we we can sense that one, if we don't hear or some days, or if we don't very serious towards our spiritual practices, or if we stop doing some services, or due to some other engagements in personal life or something, we sense that kind of I'm lacking that thing, I used to do that one, I am not doing. So that what it makes is that higher taste is getting low, so that lower tastes are, they are like gravity kind of things. So gravity means they pull us, how much, say if I throw an object on the earth, it definitely falls down. In the same way, the lower tastes are it's there in us, but still if we don't give higher taste, they make it that those lower taste pulls us down to the make us to fall down from the spiritual life. So that's why the goal of this toleration is, till we give up the body, we need to tolerate the urges of the material senses. How we need to tolerate? By increasing our weapons. By increasing our weapons, those weapons I told already: chanting, remembering Krishna, praying, whatever we are, Krishna has given mood, each and each one have their abilities and mood and particular way of expressing our love towards to Krishna. So by spending more time on that one, by meditating more on that one, that those are the weapons to throw against the temptations. That's how we can fight this temptations or whatever it comes in this one. At the same time, we can tolerate, because we are tolerating that one, because this world is not like a smooth flower going everywhere we go. Krishna consciousness, everyone is Krishna consciousness, we can go and walk wherever. No, it's not like that. So we are the spirituality in this Kali Yuga is very, very less. And even if we meet here and there, it's very, very, if we are in devotees association continuously, consistency means it's a biggest blessing from Krishna. So we need to consider like that. So that's why everybody like devotee want to be in Krishna, in a devotees association. Because why we want to be in devotees association is each devotee, whoever are practicing Krishna consciousness, their goal is one: going back home, back to Godhead. When the aim is one, what will happen? Their consciousness is one, that is Krishna consciousness. So when the like-minded, everybody has eko vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana, one point goal. That's why when the people are there with one point goal, that going back home, back to Godhead, to Krishna, or serving Krishna or pleasing Krishna with our services, if we live in that environment, what will happen? It enlightens us. So that's why everybody devotees practicing Krishna consciousness, they seek devotees association, because temptations won't come in that one. Even temptations, how kind of inspirations comes that time. So seeing others, we inspire, motivation comes within us. So then we move closer to Krishna like that, because they are helping us to remember Krishna more. So that's what we need in this Kali Yuga. So then what will happen because this world is like both, we have a lot of others also. So when we are in the association of non-devotees, materialistic people, these temptations comes. So that time, we need to tolerate. That toleration happens by giving higher taste. How can you give higher taste? By using our weapons. Okay, so Prabhupada, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says one example, nice example. So consider there is a firefighter, and at very first time he is going to in mission to extinguish the fire. Then what happens? He's seeing the fire itself. Sometimes he may feel nervous, and sometimes first time when he picked up the pipe of water, it may fall down to the ground because nervous. First time he is coming, right? Then what will happen in time duration, in practice experiences, then what will happen, he'll become an expert in such a way that he knows with his practice experienced intelligence where to put the water and where not to put the water. If I put water in this space, then it's going to be extinguish the fire very quickly. So that all these things happens by experience, right? Firefighter. So it's not we can say, oh, here is the experienced firefighter came, and by just entering into the mission, by seeing him, the fire will get extinguished. No, it won't happen, because he has to use that one, but he is using his experienced intelligence there. So in the same way, first time this fire is like a lust. So in this example, the fire is kind of a lust. So then what will happen? I'm into Krishna consciousness from past 40 years. I'm chanting from past 50 years. That experience itself is not going to make the lust of the fire of lust suppressed or extinguish the fire of lust, because even experience is there, because these temptations keep coming. That lust, that's why I said we can't become desireless, but we can become with our enlightened intelligence to a state that what to desire less and what to desire more, and what not to desire and what to desire. So that state we can come with the experience, but we can't become desireless. So if we say like a firefighter, I have I'm into Krishna consciousness from past 15 years, 20 years, I'm chanting from past 40 years, I don't have lust, and lust of fire is not going to touch me. No, we can't say that one, because until unless we are in this body, Krishna is saying clearly here, before giving up this present body, till that time we need to tolerate. It means that we, till the death, we have this tolerance. We should have this tolerance, and one should have this keep giving higher taste, giving to ourselves. So what will happen, even though we have an experience, it's not like the lust of the fire is not going to go off. So it's kind of the our firehouse is remembrance of Krishna. So what will happen when the lust of fire comes, we need to remember the Krishna, we need to remember Krishna. By what will happen, that remembrance of Krishna is going to pour water on the lust of the fire, then the lust is going to suppress, if it is not conducive to the Krishna consciousness. So that's where the fire will get extinguished by the lust of the fire will get extinguished. So how can we stop the desiring? Like if the temptation comes repeatedly, consistently, or insistently, we can say that one no to the mind. So if the temptation comes, and what will happen, we say no to that one, and again it goes, and the desire goes off, and again after few years, after few months, again the temptation comes, because we contemplate. The mind has some kind of thing as contemplation, so which we don't have. We contemplate more here and there, even though if we don't want also, it will come, the thought will come to the mind. So what will happen, the desire will get if we keep saying no, 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 without giving any higher taste, the desire will become stronger. And it's kind of a for why you are saying no to me, like that the mind will get fight. So it's kind of again Prabhupada gives one analogy. What is that one is it's a tiger analogy, tiger in the circus. So if a trainer is inexperienced, then what he'll do is, if tiger performs something, then the trainer will feed the tiger. And if the tiger in circus don't show anything, it's not going to listen anything to the trainer, he's not going to feed the tiger. But in this case, if the trainer is a beginner or some not have much experience, what he will do, he don't give food to the tiger, and the tiger is won't sit like idle, it roars, and it makes havoc in that cage, and it creates such a situation that the trainer can think the tiger is going to break the cage and come off, or it is going to do some devastation things like that. But then the trainer may give, okay, let it go and give the food like that. So, but experienced trainer, what he'll do is let the tiger roar, because externally it's roaring, but internally it's becoming weak because there is no food for her. So that means that the mind is also roars against our temptations. If we say no, the mind says, no, no, why you are saying no to me? Like it roars at the initial stage. So we should not become submissive to the mind that time. Okay, you are roaring, let roar. I don't want to do anything. So because if we submissive, if we submissive like a without any experience of the trainer, like now how he submissively to go to the tiger and feed the tiger, if we do that one submissive if we are submissive towards our mind, what will happen? The mind is going to make a master, it is going to make us play with that. And instead of that one, at that time, if we submissively surrender to Krishna, then what will happen? Krishna is going to help us. So mind says enjoy, we say no. And if we don't give higher taste to the mind says go, keep like provoking us to go to that one. So then instead of going to the surrender to the mind, if we surrender to Krishna, Krishna will give the higher taste. Then the mind will forget. Eventually what happened, if we keep doing all these things, like remembering Krishna, throwing all the weapons against the mind when temptation comes, in time duration, the mind, the desire itself will get rid of. That kind of desire won't come. Okay, mind got tired. Like when the tiger, roaring, and trainer don't pay any attention. Go, if you roar also, I'm not going to feed you because you are not listening to me, you are not obeying me. Then what will happen? The tiger roars for some time because no strength, right? No food. Then internally it become weak. Then it will become, okay, my roar is not going to work anywhere. It's not going to bring any food to me. So I'm going to chop, quiet. Then what happens? Strengthless and keep calm, settle. Then what will happen? That time also we have to be very careful. Okay, my tiger became very calm now. If the trainee go and it has to be, we need to handle that time very intellectually, because tiger may also play tricks. Now let me calm down, when the trainer come, I'll take a like that also. So we need to little bit that time also, still we have some kind of paying attention towards the mind also. So that's how by keep doing all like this tiger analogy, as a experienced trainee, we need to react to our temptations to the mind. So when we become like this, when we training to the mind like that, so we will get a detachment from the material things. So if the temptation comes, then we will say no, giving higher taste, throwing the weapons like that. If we do repeatedly, then mind will come at a stage that we get detached to the things. Then when detachment comes, then what happened? Then the desire, it won't come again. That kind of desire won't come again. Maybe we will, as we are simultaneously, when temptation comes, we are remembering Krishna. So at one time, at one point, we are beating down the temptation. At the same time, as we are remembering Krishna, we are increasing our love or our movements towards to Krishna. In that way, what will happen? We do more spiritual activities simultaneously. So knowingly, unknowingly, just our concentration is tolerating that thing. But at the same time, we are moving closer to Krishna. So that's what it says. So closer to Krishna. So when we do that tolerate, it's not only tolerating, but that toleration is going to give us by throwing the weapons. We are remembering Krishna, right? So that remembrance, or that going towards to spiritual activities, diverting our mind towards that one, that makes us to relish the ever fresh happiness in spiritual activities. So that's how, that's why Prabhupada says here at the last sentence, it is the duty of the transcendentalist to try strenuously, and it means that determinedly. One should be determined to control desire and anger. So that determination, which comes by strong conviction from the scriptures, or by hearing from the pure devotee, or by engaging in spiritual activities, or in engaging in the services for the pleasure of Krishna, and by chanting holy names, these are going to help us to get that determination to control desire and anger. And what will happen, the devotees are the one, like, it's a conclusion of this verse is, when we become purified slowly in this process, when we become purified, then it is going to be like, what will happen, the devotee learns to tolerate. So if you see non materialistic kind of non devotee, materialistic devotee, if it gets a desire, struggles a lot to fulfill that desire, right? And don't, even if we give, like, if he's so attached to the desire, even if we give higher taste also, he's not going to accept. I want it, I want to go, I want to achieve that one. So there is no tolerance, or there is no replacement. He can't, his mind can't even take any replacement for that one. Like, imagine, like, if a person want a particular version of iPhone or something, any kind of electronics, and if he goes to the shop and there is no stock, you will get in 15 days. Or if that person's birthday is next day only, he want to give to other person that phone, then even he can't take that replacement. Okay, 15 days he can't wait, and try some other thing. No, I'm so much attached, I want to give this one only to the other person. See, it's kind of like, agitation comes, especially when the things want to go like that. Okay, this shop I don't have iPhone, then go on some other nearby other county, then go and search for that one. So the mind, it makes like, go any caste, go fulfill my desire. So that is the non-devotees, like, materialistic people. But the devotee who is practicing in spiritual consciousness, he learns to tolerate. Okay, if it is not there, okay, what is the alternative? If I can do it, okay, do it. Otherwise, wait for some time. That patience gets. So that learning to tolerate it becomes in time duration as a determination. Like, life is not like a 1 day or 2 day. We don't know how long we will live, and when death comes, we don't know. But here Krishna is saying, till that we need to learn the tolerate. So the toleration may come in different ways. It's not in one way only here as kama and anger, but it may come in any way also, like talking, speaking with others or something. So that's why we need to tolerate. That toleration, that tolerate is a wall between temptation and the transgression. So we need to increase that wall, and at the same time we need to increase our weapons too. So the more we have weapons, the more we can fight with the temptations. So that's what I have for this verse. If anybody have any questions or comments, please go ahead. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, can you hear me? Anyone hear me?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. Any comments or questions?
What does learn to tolerate mean? Do you just accept the situation, or you try to make a change? Like, say we have a situation where we don't like, and we're trying to make a change. Should we not attempt to make a change at all and just tolerate it, or should we do it within our capacity, and then if it doesn't work, just let it go?
It depends on the situation, Mataji. If we have the capability of changing the situation in our hands, we try. If it is not working, then we will leave to Krishna. So if we don't have capacity in the situation, we don't have the rights or eligible to change the situation, then we try our best. We share the thoughts and we will go like that, Mataji. It depends on the situation. And if we don't at all like it, if we don't
I don't want to make it a personal thing, more like a family situation.
Yeah, If we don't at all like
it's more
that
a
one,
family situation. It's not a public.
Mhm. So if we don't at all like that situation, then we just leave that place for some time and go ahead and do some other things or something like that. We need to find the ways. That's it, Mataji. But ultimately, we need to be in Krishna consciousness. That's what it's saying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's not a question of leaving. It's kind of,
Yeah, it's not
relationship
easy
kind
also,
of thing.
Mataji.
It's not a relationship you can leave, but at the same time, yeah. So it's like, what do you do, in a situation?
Yeah, it's not easy also, Mataji. But only thing we need to pray the Krishna to give the right
People you can just
intelligence.
leave or walk away. But if it's someone that within your internal circle that yeah, I guess so. Sometimes you have to just let it go and just accept things the way they are and say, this is what's going to happen. Yeah. All right.
But we can pray to Krishna
It's
to give right intelligence at that time, Mataji. If we can't do anything, but we can pray to Krishna to give the right intelligence and what make me to move according to the will of the Lord, like that. We can pray to Krishna, Mataji, that time. Anyone have any comments on Mataji's question? You can feel free to share.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All good, Srila Prabhupada. I think recently only in one of the class, there was something on the notion of that if you are losing your enthusiasm to serve Krishna while you are trying to tolerate, then it's better to change the environment. Something like that was spoken, and that kind of really resonated with me, that tolerance should not affect your enthusiasm to serve devotees and Krishna. So that's what I understood.
Yes, Prabhuji, I remember that one. Like, yeah.
No, it has nothing to do with devotees. It has nothing to do with my devotional life or devotees. To do with my material life, But it's really a stupid thing.
Yeah, so as long as it's not bothering your Krishna consciousness, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's not bothering. It has nothing to do with my Krishna consciousness. It has to do with my personal life and my material life. But it's kind of wrong. It's the other person to accommodate that inclined to do it. I feel like, oh, I just say, okay, this is so stupid. Let me just accept it the way it is and just move on. But still, it's bothering me enough to feel bad about it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, my inclination is to kind of move on.
Yeah, but one thing we can
Maintain
pray,
the
Mataji.
status quo,
Anyone have anything else to share? Okay, if no one has any comments or questions, tomorrow is Sanatana Goswami's disappearance day, Guru Purnima, and first day of Chaturmasya. So, as tomorrow is Sanatana Goswami's disappearance day, I'll share the screen and we'll read a little bit from about Sanatana Goswami. We have 10 more minutes, and I don't think so I can do that next verse. So we can do this reading about Sanatana Goswami. So we'll take turns and read one paragraph. So can you all see my screen?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, I'll increase a little bit font. Yeah. So Mataji, anyone would like to start, Mataji? And Prabhuji.
Go ahead, Radhika.
Okay. Sri Sanatana Goswami appears in 1488, 5 years before Sri Rupa Goswami, in a Saraswata became family.
Saraswata Brahmana.
Brahmana family in Bengal. Sanatana and his two brothers, Rupa and Anupama, were always absorbed in absorbed in Bhava Bhakti from early childhood. Remembering Vrindavana, they named the forest in which they had played after Raja's 12 forces: Dalavana, Madhuvana, Kamayavana, and Mahavana. They called their favorite baths and ponds Ramakunda and Shamakunda. Radhakunda and Shamakunda. In his youth,
In his youth, Sri Sanatan dreamed that a beautiful Brahman boy gave him Srimad Bhagavatam. Feeling ecstatic, he awoke, but seeing neither the boy nor the Bhagavatam, he felt sad. When Sanatan began his puja that morning, however, Krishna himself, disguised as beautiful Brahman boy, came and said, "Take this Srimad Bhagavatam from me, always study it, and you will attain perfection."
In Krishna Leela Stava,
In Krishna Lila Stava, Sri Sanatana Goswami glorified him. O Holy Bhagavat, you are my only, O Holy Bhagavata, you are my only friend and my guru. You're my greatest treasure and my personal savior. You are the emblem of my highest fortune and the very form of ecstasy. I offer my obeisances unto you.
Forced to submit to the ruling Muslim government, Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatana became ministers and lived at Ramakeli. But their real engagement was teaching sastras, which they learned from Vidya Vachaspati, brother of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Pandits and Brahmanas from all over India came to study under the two brothers. Sri Rupa and Sanatan were acclaimed as the crest jewels of the Gaudiya Vaishnava scholars. After the Lord visited Ramakeli and freed them, they renounced everything for Lord Gauranga's service. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered Sri Rupa and Sanatana Goswami to move to Vrindavan and perform 4 services. 1. Uncover Sri Krishna's pastime places. 2. Install deities arranged for their puja. 3. Compile bhakti scriptures. 4. Propagate the rules of devotional life.
Entering Lord Chaitanya's service, they resolutely gave up power, riches, and position to live in Vrindavan as humble beggars, absorbed in bhajan. One cannot properly perform Krishna bhajan until one renounces all attachments, both internally and externally, and adopts a life of simplicity and humility. Sri Vrajamandal Parikrama.
They travel extensively through Rajamandal, discovering many Leela sthanas of Radha Madhava. Having no fixed residence, they would catch a few winks of sleep, no more than 1.5 hours per day, under a tree or bush. Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatan Goswami spent all their time writing, discussing Krishna's pastimes, and chanting Krishna's holy names.
To maintain himself, Sanatana would beg some wheat flour, roll it into a ball by adding a touch of Yamuna water, and drop it in smoldering coals to cook. He would offer this bati, salt-free baked bread ball, to his deity of Madana Mohana. Giving up all kinds of material enjoyment, the Goswamis accepted the poorest way of life as mendicants. They ate just enough to maintain their bodies.
The Radha Madan Mohan Mandir, established by Sanatana Goswami, was the first one opened in Vrindavan by the 6 Goswamis. Described as the personal extension of the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Sanatana is the ideal spiritual master because he gives one shelter at the lotus feet of Madan Mohan. The 3 Vrindavan deities, Madan Mohan, Govindaji, and Gopinath, are the life and soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. The deity of Madan Mohan has the specific quality of helping the neophyte devotees. understand their eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of God and Lord Sri Krishna.
Madana Mohan.
Madana Mohan means Krishna. Go ahead, whoever's talking.
Go ahead, Mataji.
Mother Mohan means Krishna, who is so indescribably beautiful, and he even attracts Cupid. Kamadev. Sanatan Goswami would catch a few winks of sleep. No more. Oh my God, I lost it. I don't know. Getting. Okay. Where am I? Oh, I think I missed the pattern. Mother Mohan means Krishna indescribably beautiful that he even attracts Cupid, Kamadev. Sanatan Goswami is the Samanda Acharya who gives us knowledge of our proper relationship with Krishna, and his deities, Madan Mohan, helps us overcome our attraction for material sense gratification, Cupid, and fix our minds on devotional service.
Sorry, Mataji, my screen got moved. Okay. Sri Sanatana Goswami spent 43 years wandering from village to village in Vrindavana. The Vrajavasis would affectionately care for him, treating him like their father. With patience and concern, he listened to their problems. Then he would please all the villagers by his preaching and practical advice on everything from increasing crop yields to solving family quarrels.
Renouncing all worldly pleasures, Sanatan Goswami was humble, detached, always absorbed in study. Mahaprabhu often said that Sanatan Goswami was his favorite devotee. As an ocean of love and mercy, Sanatan excelled all other devotees in his compassion towards the suffering souls. Bhakti Ratnakar.
In his last years, he left his beloved deity of Madan Mohan with Krishna Das Brahmachari, his disciple. He did bhajan on the banks of Manasi Ganga next to Chakaleshwar Mahadev at Govardhan. Daily he walked the 24 miles parikrama, original longer route of Govardhan Hill. Although he was 65 years old, he kept his daily vow of offering 1008 obeisances to Govardhan Hill and to any Vaishnava who he met. Wow.
Understanding the difficulty of his pure devotee, Sri Madan Mohan appeared one day and said, Baba, you are too old. Don't take so much trouble to walk around Govardhan Hill every day. Sanatan replied, this is one of the daily activities of my bhajan. I must maintain it. Since you are old, said Madan Mohan, you may now give up this vow. Starting to walk again, Sanatan replied, I will never give up my religious principles.
Sanatan Goswami's firm determination to complete his daily devotional vow pleased Sri Madan Mohan, Krishna, but in the loving dealings between the Lord and his pure devotee, Krishna's desire to please his devotee often defeats the devotee's desire to please him. So out of loving compassion for his devotee, Sri Krishna stood on a large flat stone, Govardhana Shila, taken from Giriraj. He played his irresistible flute. The Govardhana Shila melted in ecstasy, capturing the impression of Krishna's lotus feet.
Presenting this to Sanatana, Krishna said.
Presenting this to Sanatana. Go ahead, Mataji. Always.
Go ahead,
I feel
Mataji.
there's nobody saying.
No, go ahead.
Presenting this to Sanatana, Krishna said, if you circumambulate the Shila every day, it will be the same as going around Govardhan Hill every day. You will keep your vow intact and not compromise your religious principles. Seeing that Giriraj himself, Sri Krishna, had given the Shila, Sanatan Goswami gratefully accepted. One can still see that Govardhana Shila in Radha Damodar temple.
Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakura said in Jaiva Dharma, Sanatana Goswami was empowered to explain the esoteric aspects of Krishna's manifest and unmanifest Rajalila. Sanatana Goswami made a significant literary contribution to the Gaudiya Sampradaya with his Hari Bhakti Vilasa, Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and Bruhad Vaishnava Stoshani.
In the form of Labanga Manjari, Sanatana Goswami serves Srimati Vishakha Shakhi in Radha Madhav's Nitya Nikunjalila. Sanatan Goswami's Samadhi is behind Radha Madan Mohan's temple. Srila Sanatana Goswami ki jai.
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 So thank you all so much. Anyone would like to share anything or
In the what we read, it said that Srila Sanatan Goswami and his deity of Madan Mohan bestows your eternal relationship with Krishna. So, like, how, like, if I go and take darshan, they will let me, like, do we know anything like how that happens?
might be we need to I don't know, Prabhu. Not, but I'm thinking like, by establishing, like, by meditating on that one, by get connection to the knowing about more Sanatan Goswami, meditating on his pastimes, which happens. Maybe in that is the way, like, maybe we can get the mercy of Sanatan Goswami. But anyone have any other thoughts, please go ahead and share.
What I've heard from Guru Maharaj is that Sanatan Goswami is the Samanda Acharya. So he tells us how we are connected, like, his expounding the Srimad Bhagavatam, he makes it clear how we are connected as Jiva souls to the Supreme, So all his treatises, all his focus of, that we learn from his life is that how we are connected, we are the spirit soul, we are eternal servants of Krishna. So he's the Sambandha Acharya.
Yeah. So
And,
my question is that only.
There's Abhideya Acharya and there's, yeah.
What
is your question?
How do we know that Sambandha? Like, how does Srila Sanatan Goswami reveals that particular Sambandha to all the jivas, or the jiva who is desiring to know?
That all his writings is basically Hari Bhakti Vilas and all the books that he has written, and also he has also written what is that the Gopakumara story. I
Brihad
can't get it.
Bhagavatamrita.
What is that Shastra?
Brihad Bhagavatamrita.
Brihad Bhagavatamrita. In all his writings, he's focusing on how the jiva is connected. So if we read all his literatures that he has written, it gives us a firm idea. So all his writings and all his focus of attention is on the sambandha aspect of the jiva to the thing. So I would say read that and meditate on that, and that's how all his writings focus on that aspect, the sambandha aspect.
Thank you, Mataji.
Actually, there are three gurus. You brought up that point. He is a Sambandha Acharya, and Prayojana, and one more Acharya is there, like Rupa Goswami. Like the three Acharyas are there. So
no, Abhideya is Rupa Goswami and Prayojana
is Raghunath Das Goswami.
Like the thing is, first, what is the relationship, then how we act on that relationship, and then last, what is the result, like what is an example of that relationship. So these are the three acharyas, and they're writing, like Rupa Goswami has written Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, says how we should act in that relationship, like what Sanatan Goswami has established the relationship. Rupa Goswami's literature says how we act on that relationship, like what should we do as practicing devotees. And then Raghunath Das Goswami, what is the end result of that, when you act like that, what to for us to give us a visual example of what that conclusion is, So these are the three acharyas.
Do you know, Mataji, any literature of Raghunath Das Goswami which says about the result?
Raghunath Das Goswami, more than the writing part, he used to recite the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he lived to be a very ripe old age. He ate very little. He used to honor all devotees, and he used to give, I think, 1001, like obeisances. Any devotee he would think he would dare, and then he would chant the Bhagavatam in 3 different tunes, and he would live in Radha Kund, and where one time even Radharani herself came, there was tiger or something in his bhajan kutir, and she wanted to protect the devotee, and then there was hot sun, blazing sun, so she was holding her cloth so that and he wasn't even aware of it, but that's why he was such a renounced person. He was like so wonderful to all other devotees, how to, Vaishnava behavior, he was like the epitome of Vaishnava behavior, how a perfect Vaishnava should be. So if we study his life, I don't think he wrote that many literature, or if he did, I'm not aware of what literature he has written, but he expounded the literature of the Goswamis. He explained that, he explained it, and in his personal life, he was an example of how a perfect Vaishnava should be. So when we study his life and we study all the things that he did, like how he was, even though he was a rich man's son, how he led a very simple life, how he was eating the food that the cow had even spat out, like in the beginning, he was using the money to support the things. And then he said, oh, this is not right, I shouldn't do this. Then he was begging from at the Simadar. Then he was thinking, I'm thinking, when I see people, oh, this person will give, that person won't give, so I shouldn't even do that. Then he was eating whatever the cow had spat, he would wash that and eat. And then Mahaprabhu gave his own personal Shila to him, to worship. And then he came to Vrindavan towards the end of his life. And then how he was expounding the Bhagavatam and how he was teaching and how he was so respectful to all Vaishnavas. And so his personal example, when we look at his biography, when we look at his own dealings with other people and other devotees, we know how a perfect devotee should work, so he is the living example of what, result of living a Krishna conscious life. That's my understanding. I don't know if he has written any particular literatures, but this is my understanding. I've heard from different lectures from Acharya.
So basically, overall, we need to meditate on their scripture, on their literatures, and on their lifestyles. So it's going to be get connect like that. I think Raghunath Das Goswami wrote Manak Shiksha, which is famous, like devotees reads that one. Okay, thank you all for joining. And if no one has any comments or questions, we will offer prayers to all the assembled Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyavacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai,
Ki jai.
Vallabhi Gopi Mataji ki
All glories to Srila Prabhupada Mataji. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.